All set.
All right, we'll call the Plan Commission meeting to order. Everybody have a chance to take a look at the minutes?
Yes.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion second to approve. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. We have a public hearing. Public hearing for a conditional use permit application to operate a boarding house in an RM1 multiple family residential district at 1320 Wisconsin Street, Christian Community Homes and Services, Inc. So this is a public hearing. It is your opportunity to weigh in on this topic. And if you so desire to speak, if you would please come up to the podium, identify yourself and your address, and try to keep your briefs, or keep your comments brief. Legal briefs, yeah. I was thinking. And try not to repeat other people's comments. So, and also, do we have anybody on Zoom for this?
No.
No? Okay. All right, so any comments?
Good evening. My name is Pam Klinkfuss, and I am the CEO at Christian Community Homes in Hudson, here at 1320 Wisconsin Street. I have with me Jim Kazrowski, who is our Director of Finance, and I also have another guest, Robin Rivard from the High School Access Program. So I just want to start by first explaining the probably eye-catching or somewhat unique request for zoning for a boarding house. My guess is that's probably a little bit of a dated zoning category. However, it was the one that, in working with our legal counsel, seemed most appropriate. And so I'd like to explain why we're doing that. So at our nursing home, we have one wing that is currently unused, has been unused since 2019. And there are 14 rooms in that wing, and those rooms are about 350 square feet, similar to a dorm room setup, but probably even a little bit bigger. They have storage and a hand washing sink and a stool, but they don't have kitchen facilities or a shower. And our biggest challenge right now as an organization is hiring staff to work. In fact, it's limited the number of seniors that we can serve in the nursing home. And so through connection with the Access program at the high school that has brought us some young adults with disabilities as workers, we came up, actually all the credit goes to Robin, to have an idea that it could be housing for young adults with disabilities who then in turn would work for us. So just a little bit to profile these individuals. They are young adults with disabilities, but too high functioning to be in a group home setting. Most of them live at home. Many of them are employable and have skills or can learn skills. And as they transition out of the Access program at the high school, their parents, as you can imagine, are looking to help get them set on the right track for the future, especially when they themselves, as parents, may not be around anymore. So the idea came that this would be a really great setting for them to move out of their parents' home and have that first opportunity to live independently in this dorm room setting. And we would not, however, provide any care for them. If they did need any type of care or assistance, their parents or some other contracted agency with the county would help assist them. We would be simply providing them a housing option where they would learn independence, and then in turn they would work for us in a role that would be appropriate for them. So the 14 rooms that are vacant right now would actually result in 13 units under the boarding house zoning, and we would convert one room into a shower room, and at the other end of the hallway, a storage room would be converted to a shower room, and then a current office would be converted to a kitchenette. The individuals that lived in that area would be able to participate in our meal program, any of our social activities. When they're not working, they'd be encouraged to volunteer or even participate in our transportation program. So in a time where there's a labor shortage and a housing shortage, we feel like this is a good use of space that's currently sitting vacant. It helps Christian Community Homes as an organization continue to serve seniors in our mission. And we also then are able to expand and be more part of the community by serving young adults. Yes.
I have a question for you on safety,
Yes.
both your employees' safety and then the clientele safety. I mean, how will you screen that, handle that if a situation should arise? Have you thought of that, and are you
Absolutely.
prepared to handle that appropriately? And I mean, and for the protection of your employees
Absolutely.
and the ultimate protection of what that place is there for.
Absolutely. So first of all, anybody who works for us has to have a criminal background check before they start and annually thereafter. For emergency procedures, we have emergency procedures in line for fire, severe weather, flooding, everything from nuclear bomb, all of that is included, and we run drills regularly. These individuals that would live in this apartment would be all part of that. Our staff are used to responding to emergencies, and we have an RN on staff 24/7. So that's really what makes this appealing, is the fact that we are a safe environment. And that's why a lot of the families, and Robin can speak to that, I keep looking to her, but she can speak to why families are interested and excited in this opportunity for young adults with disabilities.
Have you notified Wintergreen and all the rest of the residents of your potential?
Yep, we've talked to them about it, and they've been very supportive. In fact,
concern.
currently, we have, as I mentioned, the access program through the high school comes into our building during the school year with students, and we have hired 2 of those students permanently on staff. So they're already in our building on a regular basis, and they're really kind of been taking them under their wing, so to speak.
So all of your residents in the entire complex are aware of your plan here?
Yes.
I think it's a very smart idea. It's just that I was concerned about the safety part. of it.
Sure. Sure.
If somebody was, let's say, not mentally stable,
Yep.
could have an eruption, or friends that show up
Yep.
there, there's all kinds of scenarios that you could
Yep.
raise that
Yep.
would then compromise a whole bunch of things.
Great. Well, great question. So let me expand on that just a little bit. With the help of Robin and others, we would actually have a screening process. Because we need to have people that have the ability to live independently, we wouldn't be allowing people that are going to have outbursts or become destructive. It would need to be a young adult that is, for lack of a better term, maybe well-behaved. Perhaps you can even articulate on that further, Robin. But able to live independently, able to hold a job so that they do fit into the environment. We are not set up, and to your point, the frailty of our seniors, to have anybody that would be physically or distracting.
It would be devastating to the organization.
Absolutely.
You'd disappear immediately if something
Absolutely.
happened.
Yep. I will tell you that the 2 individuals, for example, that currently work with us are very friendly. One of them is more on the shy side. The other one is very friendly and outgoing, but it does take the right person to be in that role. And the range of young adults with disabilities is quite huge. And we would be looking for those that would be most appropriate.
So I've got a question for staff and maybe some former council members and current. Do we have any boarding houses in town?
Not at the moment, no.
Do we have, is there any zoning that would allow for that without coming before the board?
We approved OIC. OIC, Randy, remember that? Downtown here? OIC was I think they still exist, and I think they were gonna have some boarding that lives in there, but wasn't like long-term.
Where?
Because it was by Willow River, by Willow School. Remember, everyone was worried about the type of teenagers that would be in there?
I don't know if we approved it.
We did approve it. I
How
know
about
for a
like
fact.
Salvation Army type people and that kind of stuff too,
Just
where
kids-
they put them up for sometimes extended periods of time?
My OIC was more of a young adult, teenage facility for kids who struggle.
Yeah, I have OIC, I mean, they have that they discontinued, operations moved in 2021, but they were
Were they a boarding house still? I can't remember what we approved it as.
facility for youth supportive home services. It was reviewed, and that was approved in 2015, and then it was reviewed in 2016, 2019, and then, like I said, we were notified in 2021 that they didn't need the facility at 426 Oak Street anymore.
And that was the only one?
That's the only one I'm seeing for OIC.
Just to give a little context, Mr. Mayor, we did look at whether or not it could operate as an apartment building, and under the Wisconsin statutes, because there are not showers or kitchens in the individual rooms, that's why we were advised to go the boarding house, even though I really hate that language.
Yeah, no, it's kind of a throwback type concept.
Yes.
And I gotta believe that, you know, we probably had a lot of them here in Hudson
At one
way
time.
back when.
To answer your other question though, about if they would have had to ever come up here if this was in a different zoning district, yeah, they would still need a CUP despite
Anybody else that would come in here for boarding must
all,
come. They
yeah.
can't just do
Any
this.
chances where it is
So-
permitted, it requires a CUP.
I'm supportive of this. I think it's a good idea. My only concern is, and I've voiced this concern with other things, is precedent setting. And, you know, it's very difficult economic times right now for a lot of people. And housing is very difficult to find here in Hudson, as we all know. And I could see more requests coming in for this type of thing once the word gets out that we've approved this.
Well, they'd compare apples to apples when it's apples and oranges in this past situation. Those were troubled youth. This is a
Right.
whole different
Yeah.
job.
Right, no,
But
I-
if we let that happen, what's the potential down the road?
How many people might come in that have a 5-bedroom home that would love to downsize but can't afford to move out because they can't afford to get anything else or can't find anything locally, but would say, hey, we could
Let me
convert
ask,
some of the rooms in our home.
let me ask this question then, what's the difference between what they're doing and an Airbnb? Other than length of term, I mean.
Well, and I think that we have regulations on length of term
Now
on
we do.
Airbnb.
But I mean, there's multiple people using a shared bathroom and a, you know, in an Airbnb and that kind of stuff, and so,
But it's a length of time, Fred.
yeah, okay,
We've got a regulation on that.
okay.
I read about this, I don't know where I read about it a few months ago. Was it in the paper, or was it, did we get a notice on, through for a plan commission at some point about this? Because I
Do
read,
you live in our neighborhood?
I mean, I was at work when I read about it.
Oh.
So-
As far as I'm aware, nothing has been in the paper. We've shared it with our board of directors, and then part of this process, we had a neighborhood meeting and offered information.
Maybe you sent out a thing on a neighborhood meeting,
We
and I
got-
read it.
We got that
Yeah.
in the email. yeah.
So I went on CCH's site, I went on to do more research, and, I mean, it's more of a, like, I mean, unless you, forgive me if you said this, I'm repeating what you said, but, I mean, it's more of a, if you live there, you're working there, right? So, I mean, the concept of someone trying to have people living in their house to pay a mortgage versus living where you work, you know, there's a pretty distinct difference right there, because that's how they're paying
There's no-
that's how they're paying to live, right? They're
No
working
question,
there.
that's a distinction here.
Good point.
But, and like I say, I don't want to be borrowing trouble from the
No,
future.
I know.
So, and it's a little off topic, but I just wanted to try to get some history and also just, you know, it's a warning that, you know,
question.
we might see this come up.
I just pulled up the OIC one. Theirs was at 426 Oak Street, and that was for, it was not overnight anything. It was 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. where they had, you know, youth come in to kind of learn different lessons, like
Life
working in the
skills.
kitchen, you know, life skills type classes. So that was not an overnight type
Okay.
boarding house.
So what was the feedback? You had the neighborhood meeting, What was the feedback? I see you had a couple people show up.
We had one husband and wife show up, and the husband had more concerns about, because we also feel like if there's rooms available, we have some international workers coming, international nurses and caregivers, that we might also have them stay in there while they're here for their contract. And there was more of a concern from the husband that, about crime related to the international workers. And again, I shared with them, first of all, you have to have a clean background check in order to come through immigration. We would run another one and have to have a criminal background check with our organization and ongoing. The organization that we're contracting through is a reputable organization, does this all the time. And if individuals commit a crime, they would immediately need to leave the country. These are individuals that have experience as nurses or as caregivers. Most of them have trained of nurses and didn't test, but they're working as caregivers. So, you know, and 75% of this group is female caregivers. So crime should not be an issue. But that was the one bit of feedback. Otherwise, it was very supportive, especially with the young adults with disabilities, because they're local individuals.
We don't have like a boarding house even for like alcohol, like people who come out of like
That would be
AA or,
halfway house? or-
yeah, halfway house? We have anything like that? Wow, that's impressive.
Possible, I'd like to ask Robin explain a little bit more about the young adults with disabilities and kind of the profile of who would be most appropriate.
So this has just been an idea of mine for 9 years.
Identify yourself.
Oh, sorry, I'm Robin Rivard, Transition Coordinator for the Hudson High School. And I worked primarily with people with disabilities, ages 16 to 21. There's a targeted group of individuals who are, many of whom you may not know have a disability, to be quite honest, but don't have the skills or would not be safe in a regular apartment building because they're too trusting. That's the bottom line. So the people that we are targeting to hopefully make this work for Christian community homes would be those individuals with a disability who can take care of themselves, who, you know, are able to stay home alone, they're able to get up on their own. I mean, their disability isn't super limiting. However, because they're so vulnerable, they're not safe in a regular apartment building because it's not vetted for who comes and goes, and other people would take advantage of them. So those are the types of people and families, and I'll tell you right now, because I have meetings with a lot of people, there is so much excitement about this possibly happening, way more than the number of rooms that are possibly going to be available. Like this is a need, because these young adults don't need a group home situation. They don't need 24-hour supervision. They're able to do some of those things. So they need that in-between regular apartment and group home. It's just a very small sliver of young adults with disabilities that we're targeting that would be appropriate. And we will have checklists and all different things. Something else we had talked about is that they would have to come and work for a trial period before offered housing, so that we make sure that you indeed can do the job that you are signing up for. They will be paid to work too. So this isn't like I work there and I get free housing. They'll pay a monthly housing stipend and they'll also get paid. And they can choose to work, we haven't set the hours yet, but part-time, because many of them already have jobs other places. They're just looking for somewhere to live, and their families are looking for something that's more secure than a regular apartment building.
Okay.
I'm back to my issue again. I mean, what would stop, say, a future tenant of who we're talking about from having a beer party? What would stop them from having friends over on Friday night and making a ruckus, you know, where you're at? And then how would you handle it if that happened? I mean, what would you do?
Well, I guess what would stop the people in the independent living apartments from having a party? It's kind of the same thing. They're hooked into CCH too.
Well, I mean, I'm going right back to
I'm just putting it back. I
the
mean,
safety part of it.
Correct.
And then ultimately, it's your business. If something were to happen, I think it would greatly impair what you
I'll
guys
tell you
do.
right now, the people with disabilities, the ones that are going to be targeted for this, they follow rules better than you or I. And if a rule was that you can't have people over, they're not going to have people over.
Okay.
I mean,
Well, just so you're okay about monitoring it internally, I mean, I would say we have to lean on you heavily for that.
And we
For the
want
protection of
nothing-
everybody.
We want nothing less than to maintain a safe environment for our seniors. That's our number one top priority, and we wouldn't enter into this if we didn't feel like we could maintain that. So it'll just be, you know, they'll have a residency agreement, there'll be host rules, just like any other type of lease or residency agreement. So, again, I think the important piece that Robin just pointed out is they are extremely rule abiding and very almost somewhat anal about times and processes and things like that. So I think it's the perfect group.
You said what I wanted you to say, thank you very much, so.
And when they're not working, that their free time is their free time, they can do whatever they want. Go
Correct. Some of them drive, to be quite honest, and some of them have driver's license. Some of them don't, so they would maybe use the transportation. Yeah, and there's actually a little courtyard that we talked about with, like, we could throw basketball hoops and a little grill out there, and they'd have that community setting. But they would have a way to scan in just themselves and have their own locked room. They will have their own, it's just kind of like a dorm, sort of.
Right.
Yeah, they have their own entrance and exit and.
Separate entrance.
Yep.
Yep.
What would be your exit strategies? All of a sudden, you need more room for your regular business, and this model falls to the side.
Yep, great question. So you can take that. As I said, this wing has 14 rooms, and we'll be renovating one of those rooms for a shower, but the remaining 13 rooms will be unchanged. So in the event that we needed the space for something else or wanted to convert it back to a nursing home, it'd be a very easy model. The investment is about $300,000, which we would either fundraise or use savings for. But to return it to other use would be very easy. There is, however, just so you know, there is nursing home moratorium in the state, so we are currently at license with the rest of our wings in that bit. So we probably wouldn't convert it back to a nursing home.
Nursing home.
But an exit strategy for us is to convert it to some other type of low-income senior housing.
Okay.
But again, we'd still be back to the situation of not having, it wouldn't be an apartment, so.
Okay, so you open the door,
Yeah, you're thinking what I'm thinking.
yeah,
Nursing home moratorium.
moratorium on nursing home beds?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
No, that's ridiculous.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
That's a state-imposed moratorium?
That's state imposed, correct.
And why? Is that for public and
Well,
private?
okay, so moratorium
Is that public and private?
Yes, yes. It really goes back to a good portion of the state's Health and Human Services budget is paid out to Medicaid. And generally in nursing homes, 50 to 70% of nursing home residents are Medicaid. That's not the case for us in Hudson. So it was the state's attempt to see more private assisted living, people using their funds in other ways, and maintaining people in their home, like with home health care,
Right.
to lessen the impact of the Medicaid budget. Interesting, I'm not going to take us down this rabbit hole, but in the state of Wisconsin, since 2016, there have been 56 nursing homes that have closed because of labor issues.
I was aware of that. No, not
Yes.
56, but I was aware of
Yeah.
labor issues. So is this moratorium, is it a federal moratorium then, or just
No,
a
it's just a
state?
state. Minnesota has one as well, but yeah, Wisconsin, it's a state moratorium.
Okay.
Yep. And all the more reason why we want to keep our nursing home going, because we would never want to see it closed. It would be, impossible to get another nursing home back. We are the only nursing home here and also at our other location in Osceola. So it's resulted in us needing to be creative with how we get staffed in those hard-to-fill positions like housekeeping and dietary aides and certified nursing assistants and nurses.
Have you gone with this at your Osceola facility or no?
No, because Osceola's facility doesn't have a full wing, so it doesn't apply as beautifully here as it does here. I mean, this is truly a separate wing with fire doors at both ends and a separate entrance to the outside. But I have things in my mind for Osceola because we have 10 acres behind the building.
So you're the only nursing home in Hudson?
In Hudson and Osceola, yes.
So the other homes that we have, like Red Cedar Canyon, and that, they're not considered nursing homes?
They're not nursing homes, they're called what's called a CBRF, it's community-based residential facility, or some are licensed as RCAC, which is a residential care apartment complex, which is also what we have at Pine Ridge and Wintergreen. But you don't have 24-hour nursing care. That's what makes a nursing home unique, is the 24-hour nursing care and the ability to do rehab and build Medicare Advantage programs, insurances.
Okay, that makes sense.
It's a more clinical model than the housing models.
I'll move to approve with all city conditions, unless there's more questions.
Public hearing.
We're actually still in the public hearing.
Jim, do you need to add anything?
Oops.
We're still in the public hearing.
We'll let someone else talk.
Well, you know, so, yeah, are there any other comments?
I have a question. Teresa Larson with, we actually provide a transportation service for all the community-based and affordable housing, 10 of them in town. That's the city of Hudson is subsidizing. And I just have a question. What is, because we probably will be driving some of your, the new residents around. What is the ratio between international and the program that's supporting the high school students?
So the plan is, once we get approval, to start right away with renovations and bringing in the young adults with disabilities. Our efforts right now around recruiting international students is an undetermined time frame. We have just started the process, and we have been told it could take anywhere from 2 to 5 years. So what we'll do is we'll probably start with, our goal is 7 young adults with disabilities, just to avoid any perception of a possible group home, which comes at number 8, and see how that goes. And if we have the ability, we could bring in more.
When you say these foreign people, would you consider them, my daughter's in the medical field, like a travel nurse? Would they be like a travel nurse,
Yeah,
but just in a different capacity?
Absolutely. The international workers that we're currently working with are all based out of the Philippines. Philippines, if you're not aware, just a bit of trivia, #1 export from the Philippines is RNs. They send them throughout the world. They work as nurses everywhere. So we are looking, like I said, at 4 RNs. We'll have 2 here in Hudson, 2 in Osceola. And we're looking at 16 caregivers, again, would be experienced caregivers that have either gone to nursing school and not tested, or just worked as caregivers. And we will train them as CNAs. They will all be on 3-year contracts with us, on what's called a PERM visa. So they have the ability in that 3 years to be able to become permanent citizens. So they come through a very reputable agency. Immigration of caregivers from the Philippines has been happening for over 20 years. When I was at Presbyterian Homes 15 years ago, they were bringing in international workers in from the Philippines then. I've worked in Virginia, Barron, Wisconsin. Barron County Nursing Homes have been bringing people from this very same organization since 2016.
So you guys would be their sponsor then? Would that be how you'd phrase that?
I believe, I don't know if it's a type of visa that requires a sponsorship. I'm not well versed in visas.
I'm not either.
Yeah, but the perm visa, yeah, we are somehow agreeing to
Well,
bring
somebody's got to
them.
be responsible because you're the
Exactly.
authority bringing them in.
Exactly. Different than probably more of a domestic sponsor, but it's a work sponsor, in all fairness, yeah.
Thank you.
So to answer your question, I don't exactly know the ratio, because I think we're going to kind of play it by ear. One thing that is unique is we do expect the young adults with disabilities, most of them having lived at home, to want their own space. So having one whole room to themselves. What we have heard from our counterparts in Barron County is that they have found, because they're used to living in tight quarters, that they're very lonely in a space by themselves, and the Filipinos like to room it together in twos. So we'll see. It's unbeknownst to us, but they're used to living a lot of people in very small spaces.
Okay. Any other comments?
I'm Jane Borofka. My concern is this. I've been a caregiver before. I've worked with the developmentally disabled as a young teenager. And so what I'm hearing that you bringing these international certified caregivers in from the Philippines, have you thought of training anybody here that we have to go outside?
So before you answer that, Jane, if you could tell us where you live, please.
I live in Hudson.
Address.
713 2nd Street.
Okay, thanks.
So it's just my concern that, we say that we don't have enough employees, and then we're bringing people in from the Philippines, and then they huddle together at their workspace, and they kind of segregate themselves from the rest of everybody else. And if we're community, I feel like your program is totally awesome, what you're doing with the developmentally disabled, but my concern is bringing in foreigners when you could be training people right here at home.
Fair question, and probably appropriate for someone who's not in touch with the industry, but we have a severe worker shortage, and as I mentioned earlier, we actually have to limit the number of admissions to our nursing home because of the shortage of workers. We do offer a CNA training course, and we have not yet filled every one of our courses. We can take up to 8 students, and most of them average around 5 or 6. So generally, there just aren't people out there looking to work, even when we offer to pay them training, pay for their training, and pay for their wages. So we are definitely in a crisis situation, and would welcome anybody who locally wanted to learn to be a CNA.
Okay, thanks.
Now it's going to get in the paper.
My response to that is if you have a problem with that, what makes you think that these people with these developmentally disabilities want to do the job? So now you're back at square zero.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, can he address the Plan Commission and not each other?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, this is, although I understand the questions, come on. The questions are being asked of the folks that are here asking for this, but please address the Plan Commission when you speak.
Hi, I'm Reverend Dr. Dawn Jeffers Ramstead. I reside at 1542 Summer Street. My church shares a large property line with CCH, and my position requires me to serve on the board. And I hear my neighbor's concern. I also know in the 7.5 years I've resided in Hudson and served on that board, we have been dealing with a nonstop labor shortage. There just aren't the workers who want to do the work. Because nursing home care, and Pam is absolutely right, when it comes to skilled nursing, we're it. And I'm in all of them because I see all the senior adults. I've been in everything in Hudson and a good deal of Woodbury. And this labor shortage is real. What we know from being on the board is we are, like Pam said, 2 to 7 years away from anything being realistic about international workers. And meanwhile, in July, I went to a comparable nursing home, skilled nursing facility in Woodbury, and every worker was an international worker. It would be lovely if we could raise up homegrown people who are willing to work 24/7. That would be lovely. But we are competing in the job market against places like Quick Trip. And this is an excellent alternative. Now, speaking from my members who are also residents of Wintergreen or Pine Ridge, they are thrilled at the idea of giving meaningful work to young adults with developmental disabilities, which is the question before us today. So that's about what I have to say. Like I said, I live here in Hudson. I've been here for 8 years, and this crisis isn't like it just popped up since COVID. This is something we've been dealing with on the CCH board for the last 8 years.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my question is why, I don't know why the International Park plays a role in our decision at all. I don't think it should,
Well,
so,
yeah, we will save that until the next piece.
well,
I get it. Public hearing right now. So, any other comments?
I've been in senior housing for over 25 years across the United States.
Identify yourself, please.
Therese Larson.
From?
I live in Altoona right now, but operate a business that's contracted with the city of Hudson that serves seniors and transportation disadvantaged seniors and those young adults or people with disability. And there is it is a crisis situation, and models like this are happening all over the United States to provide services for the two categories of individuals that we're talking about. So this isn't a new thing. It's, especially with the Filipino program, it's been around for a long time. So I just wanted to offer a supportive comment for.
Thank you. Any other comments? Any other comments? Any other comments?
I move we close the public hearing.
second.
Got a motion second to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Public hearing is closed. Conditional use permit to operate a boarding house in an RM1 multiple family residential district at 1320 Wisconsin Street, Christian Community Homes and Services, Inc.
Well, a lot of discussions already happened regarding the topic, so I'm not going to get into too much detail here.
Can I talk then?
Yes, you certainly
I make a
can.
motion that we approve this with all city conditions.
I second.
Got a motion second to approve. Any discussion?
I'd like to see the review done shorter than 2 years.
Okay, so,
I would suggest
Let's
1
make-
year. I know that anything shy of 1 year is
right,
too much, but I
I agree with that.
okay,
Yeah, it's fine with me.
all right, so got it amended?
Yeah, and I'll note that it'll probably 1 year from when they commence, having workers work at the facility.
Right. It's pointless if no one's there yet, right?
Yeah.
All right, anybody else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Thanks, everybody. Thank you. You're welcome. Downtown Design Review Certificate Application for Solo Yoga at 214 Locust Street, Edie Brennan.
So the applicant has submitted a sign permit to have their back alley entrance wall painted with their business name. The approximate size of the proposed painting is 73 square feet in area. As the proposal meets all downtown design guidelines and municipal sign code dimensional requirements, city staff is recommending approval.
So moved.
Second?
We got a motion second to approve. Any discussion?
is that wall currently yellow, like, or the mustard color that is shown here? Sorry.
Yep, that's the Kanoki's building.
Okay,
That's down in that alley.
okay.
Anybody else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Downtown Design Review Certificate Application for Edward Jones at 811 First Street, Suite 203, Grell Graphics.
So this applicant is proposing a single wall sign, non-illuminated, on the primary east facade of the multi-tenant building. The wall sign is proposed to be 24 square feet and is compliant with NR 118 municipal sign ordinance and the downtown overlay design guidelines. So we recommend approval on this one as well.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Got a motion second to approve. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Downtown Design Review for repainting at 713 Second Street, Jane Borofka.
So applicant and property owner Jane Borofka is requesting to repaint her home. The majority of the exterior of the home would remain off-white. Meanwhile, window and door trims along with window shutters are proposed to be painted pink in the shade shown in the paint chip in your packets.
Municipal Municipal Code 255-17.10A, 13B, and C both permit no more than 2 primary colors and to use bright colors as accents only, in which case staff believes that is the case in this scenario, so we would recommend approval.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion second to approve, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Consideration of a rewrite of Chapter 255-17.1 through 255-17.10 in the City of Hudson's Downtown Overlay Code.
As the Plan Commission is aware, we've had several discussions now pertaining to this topic, updating the Downtown Overlay District Ordinance, both to simplify it, eliminate redundancies, and to improve the review processes for both minor and major developments that occur in downtown. Due to the simplification, you'll notice the ordinance itself is renumbered from .10, like .1, .10 to like 17.1 to 17.7. Thereby reducing it by 3 subsections. A public hearing for this code rewrite, to be known as Ordinance 1123, is set to take place at the council on August 21st. And at this time, staff are requesting the commission to forward a recommendation of approval to the council for that meeting. Yes.
May I ask a question just based on what happened here tonight? Do we need to put in something to accommodate the term boarding house? Since we're
That
doing
would-
zoning and all that kind of stuff, I mean, I don't know, is this the right place for that, or is it somewhere else?
That would be a separate section that would be updated pertinent to that. So,
Because this is the downtown business.
Just downtown?
right,
Okay.
you're talking about the permitted uses table. That would be something I'm actually working on right now.
Yeah,
so.
well, no, I didn't know if this was the right time. I mean,
Oh, that's
because
okay.
we brought up kind of a
Yeah.
gray area subject that, hey, while we're doing it, let's do it.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, there's a whole host of terms in that permitted use table that some are kind of outdated, that it's,
Thank you for that.
last time some of them were updated were 1993, and it's
I didn't know that.
time for some
Thank
new
you.
Yep.
terms.
Yep.
So,
Move to recommend approval.
and I'll second that.
Motion is second to approve, or recommend approval to the city council. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved.
Move to adjourn.
Any comments or anything first? Things for agendas? Nothing? Okay. Is there a second?
Randy already seconded it, yeah.
Sorry. Motion is second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. We stand adjourned. Thanks, everybody.